Hey guys, so welcome back to Indirect Knowledge. So this evening, um, we got another special tarot card reading, and this is for Annie. And Annie would like to know like how her boyfriend feels about her. And I'm not going to use any. I'm not going to use his name or any last names or anything like that, just to protect her and his privacy and everything. But Annie's quite a common name, so it could literally apply to anyone. Um, so just do a little shuffle here. Just want to get a really nice shuffle on these, get them really mixed up good. So guys, most of you guys know that I'm a monk, and so it's sometimes people think it might be a little bit incongruent, maybe is a good word for it. I'm not sure actually what the word for it would be, that a monk would do tarot cards. Well, I've been doing tarot long before I was a monk, and I've been psychic since I was a really small child. And those skills or powers or gift or whatever you want to label it as, I mean, different people have different ways of labeling it. They've just increased. Now, when I was a kid, and I had a pretty traumatic experience where I sensed that some neighbors were going to pass away in an accident, and that got turned into kind of not publicity, but let's just say I ended up in an ESP school. ESP just stands for extrasensory perception, and it's people that it's kind of a way of saying that like we pick up things. It could be like picking up energy or visions or hearing things. Like sometimes people say it's like clairaudient. Things on these natures, but different people just have different ways of processing information, maybe through like the sixth sense or whatever you want to call it. And anyways, I get things like I pick up energy. Like when I say energy, it's kind of like it's sort of like it's like seeing shades of a color, kind of. If maybe this is the best kind of analogy for it. Color light is all about energy. And different colors, different types of light have different shades associated with those lights, and that's what light essentially is. So and depending on the frequency or the it'll have sort of like a different kind of sense to it, like a different feeling. And that's kind of like what I'm saying when I say I pick up an energy. Like if it's a really dark energy, and that there's sort of a connotation to that. If it's a lighter energy, there's a different kind of connotation. There's a different kind of sense that you get. And we have these associations that we have, like with experiences, like life experiences. And so, of course, the more life experiences you have, and at least for me personally, like I've become very calibrated to what different energy, like shades of color, whatever you would say, mean, when I pick up that energy. So that energy just sort of comes to me. Also, like, just like if you add like on kind of the color spectrum, you've got like just, you have the whole rainbow of things. But like if you look at a picture, for example, a picture like in color has a lot of different colors that make up that particular image. Now, for me, psychically, and I'm trying to articulate this really, I've spent many, many years kind of trying to articulate this. And I've heard other people try to present information kind of articulately in terms of how they get information psychically. And I pretty much kind of got it narrowed down. I guess the best way for me to really put it out is like if you look at a picture, like whether it's a Polaroid picture or a digital picture, like on your phone or your laptop or something along those lines, it's comprised of a lot of different colors, and designers, people that get online and they do like graphic design, they can get those different pixels and they can tell you what exact shade that is. And there's like a hexa code or, RBG code or something like that, like, digits of code that represent what that particular shade looks like. And there's like an infinite number. Well, it seems like an infinite number anyway. Well, when I get like an image of something, like different images, it's like that energy that I'm talking about, like the shades of color and things. It's like that energy is coming together to form that picture, and that's what I get in my mind, my mind's eye. Like I don't know if it's really imagination. It's just kind of, yeah, maybe who knows, but it's just kind of like what you perceive. Like if you saw something and then you closed your eyes and you try to reimagine that or re-see it or kind of continue to see it, it's essentially the same thing. Now, if you look at something directly, I'm just looking at a Kleenex box here, but or a tissue box, whatever you want to call it, but just looking at a tissue box. And if I look at that tissue box and I close my eyes, I can still see that image of that tissue box. I can still see the colors and everything like that. But now it's kind of like fading away. It's kind of like disappearing. So when I'm getting information psychically, I'm getting like that energy is creating a picture, and at some points that picture is pretty clear, and I can get some pretty clear, um, you know, I can see things pretty clearly. But as I kind of hold on to that, just like I do, like when I look at the tissue box and I close my eyes, at some point it just sort of like fades out, it kind of fades out. Now, if I intentionally try to like recreate that, I can kind of do that, but it may not be an exact copy or something, or I may leave some details out or something. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of explain sort of how that happens because, I get emails from people sometimes, and people are genuinely curious, I think, and some people are very judgmental. Some people have some very strong opinions about psychics or tarot card readers or anybody that does divination or anything like that. Um, they might say, well, that's against God, or, that's against this, that, and the other. Well, I can't help, um, I can't help being psychic. I mean, it would be like, um, like if people were, you know, if I was born with like one arm, and I didn't have the other arm. I mean, you could judge me for only having one arm, or you could look at me a little, like because I'm different and judge me. Um, but I still can't help it. I can't just grow an arm, at least not at this time in science, as far as things go. So, I mean, so it's a lot, I'm trying to do the best I can here, you guys, to kind of give you guys the kind of situations I've faced like in the past, so people say, well, you don't have to practice it. Well, I mean, obviously there's some reason why I'm psychic, um, that I've had these experiences, and I've learned that, I can either use the gift to help people, um, or, just kind of not help people, like intentionally not help people. And I choose to help people. That's just, I'm a monk. It's a big part of our day-to-day activities is to help people and to perform service. And so this is just one service that I perform. So love me, hate me, judge me, whatever you want. It's just, I'm not going to apologize for, um, this gift. I'm going to try to use it, as best I can to help as many people as I can. because I feel like in my heart, that's, what God has sort of called me to do. So yeah, just thought I'd kind of throw that out there. Plus, I needed a little bit of extra time. I really wanted to shuffle these cards up really, really good. I think I've about shuffled the spots off of them, to be honest with you. But I wanted to give a little bit of perspective on things, just to kind of clarify things, because I get it. Like I really do. I can see other people's perspectives on things and that, and and I don't judge people for judging me. I mean, it's I just don't. What else can I do about it? So, anywho, I think it's about time for this. So getting back on track here. So Annie just wants to know like how her boyfriend feels about her, and let's find out. So for this, we'll go ahead and do like a 7-card reading. That's kind of more of a more in-depth kind of reading, and kind of see what the outcome and everything is here. So I like to break this reading up into thirds, and what I mean by that is like there's 3 different things that I'm really looking at when I do a tarot card reading like this. So this is my 7-card spread. And what I've done is I've got a past, present, and future that's built into this thing. And so the first third is past, present, and future. And guys, I'm calibrated, as far as the energy goes and everything that I've just kind of more or less explained, I'm calibrated to about 3 months out. It could be 3 months in the past or 3 months in the future. And then depending on the heaviness of the energy that I get, because I've been doing this for so long, I have kind of like I'm sort of calibrated intuitively to about what the actual date would be or the time frame would be for whatever it is I'm picking up. So if it's a really heavy energy, there's more immediacy. It's normally, if it's very heavy, it could be very much in the very close future. It could be earlier than 3 months. And if it is a very I don't know, very light energy is a good way of putting it, then oftentimes that's very much further into the past. If it's a neutral energy, sometimes I might get a little bit off on that, to be perfectly honest with you. But I will let you know if it's kind of that neutral energy that I'm getting. And sometimes that neutral energy will, as the spread goes on, the tarot reading goes on, will sometimes alter and change, and then I can kind of go back to it later on. It is, it's not a precise science or anything like that, but because I've been doing this for so long, as far as the time goes, I can kind of pinpoint time pretty accurately. So so that's the first third of the reading. Now, the second third is really 2 cards. I want to look very specifically at what's going on in the present moment, because that's what we're talking about. And so we kind of take this next card to it kind of illuminates what the present situation is. And then I also like to kind of figure out where the state of mind is, or the attitude, or sort of what the person that I'm doing the tarot card reading for is actually really wanting, like what's really going on behind the scenes. This is maybe the stuff that the person hasn't told me, or maybe stuff that they haven't even really figured out for themselves. But it's just something in their subconscious mind, or it could be very much in their conscious mind, where they're just really wanting something really bad, or not wanting something. And I can kind of get a read in terms of like what that looks like in that. And I can kind of point that out and bring it to light so that they can understand things. And then by understanding that, I'm able to better help and serve the situation, to give them some more perspective and insight. Okay, so that's the second third. And then the final third, when I do these tarot card readings, it is about really what the outcome is. This is assuming that, no other actions are taking, that just if things progress along the normal course of business, that this is what would be the outcome. And then there's also the kind of the answer or the key to getting that outcome. Like it's sort of the answer to, if for example, like if I said, um, dude, I'm kind of at a loss for words. If I said that, tomorrow you're going to go on a podcast and talk about X, Y, and Z. Um, if you, what would be so? The answer card would sort of be like, okay, how would you get on the podcast? It would kind of be like, okay, well, what do you need to do to make this happen? Uh, or if you told me, hey, I'm supposed to go on this podcast, I really don't want to go. What's really the best course of action so that this doesn't happen? And then I could tell you that based on this other card. And so the answer card sort of gives us like it's kind of like the context clues to kind of get us in the direction that is the most advantageous for us or the best for us, or just very simply put, the direction we want to go. So, all right, so let's get on with it. So I've already dealt the cards out. I've already kind of put the spread out here in front of me. Let's get going. So the very first card is the past card. And this is the Sun. Now we're talking about relationships here, and we're talking about feelings, very specifically the boyfriend's feelings for Annie. And in the beginning, like when things were getting going, like in the recent past, it's very loving feelings, transparent feelings, very honest feelings, playful feelings, and that's what the Sun here in this particular spread represents. Now, that being said, whenever the Sun, this is the best card in the deck, by the way, in my opinion, but this Sun right here is all about happiness, joy, innocence, purity, um, happiness, true sincerity, like having a good heart. All the good things in life is kind of emanated in this card, the Sun. It's a very light energy. You can feel that. It's very happy. It's just very thrilling. But anyway, the Sun, in any spread, like if you get it in your spread, it automatically makes the entire tarot card reading better. I mean, it makes it a good reading by and large. It adds light to everything else that's going on. Now, you got it in the very beginning, which is really good. In the beginning of your relationship with this person, things were great. This person really had a lot of love, a lot of good feelings. I mean, everything for you. And that's what we see right here. In the present moment, we have, this is the Five of Swords. Now, just so to kind of clue you in, swords are about the mind, so a lot of times we feel conflicted about things in our mind. These are stuff that we maybe don't tell everybody, but it's stuff that just kind of, cycles around in our mind, and it causes us some anxiety or some conflict. So a lot of times people associate swords also with conflict because it's sort of that mental conflict that we might get. And the reality is that we sort of live in two realities. We live in this reality of like everyday life where, we go about our day very consciously. And then we have that other part of us, which is really we're kind of in our head. It's a side of us that most people never get a chance to see. And if we're completely honest with ourselves, oftentimes it's the part that we choose not to see, or that, because we're so busy doing everything else, like we're not even, cognizant of our own thoughts and the things that are actually going on in our mind, it's just, and a lot of that is because our conscious mind can only really process, 5 to 9 message units at any given moment, so we're limited. Our conscious mind is very limited. Our unconscious mind or subconscious mind or higher self, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes people call it the female mind, creative mind, right brain, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes people think of it as like just really more infinite. But the conscious mind is sort of clueless a lot of times because it just really can't pick up a lot of that, a lot of what is going on inside the mind. Well, inside the mind, in this particular thing, like in the present moment, the boyfriend is sort of like this, almost like winning at any cost. And that's what this card is really about. You see this person here, they're victorious, but you see these other people that they weren't so victorious. They've thrown their swords down and just kind of quit the battle. He's got 3 swords. They each had 1 sword. We've got 5 swords total. So, I mean, it's sort of an unfair fight. And if, these other people, so if you're kind of if your mindset or your attitude is kind of like winning at any cost, you might win, but the price you pay to win may not be worth the win itself, if that makes sense. So it's sort of like what's going on now, like in the present moment, what I'm picking up as far as a boyfriend's feelings and emotions go. It's sort of like, it's almost like a youthful energy that I'm picking up where it's like, it's a stubborn kind of energy where it's like, no, 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 I'm right. You're wrong. I'm going to tell you what's on my mind. I disagree with you and this, that, and the other. It's sort of like that stubbornness has kind of come out. In the beginning of a relationship, you know, when things are very light, very surfacey, we're getting to know each other, we're trying to figure the ins and outs of the other person and stuff like that. And we're really clueless about the other person, but we're sincere, like it's a very loving kind of energy. But as a relationship goes on, those kind of things change. There's sort of becomes like a power struggle sometimes or some other dynamic at work. And it's like, I want to get my way. It doesn't mean that the person doesn't want you to get your way, but front and center in their mind is getting their way. And that's kind of where his thinking is. That's kind of where the mindset is right now. That's at least what I'm sort of picking up here. It's not that he doesn't care or anything like that. He definitely cares. It's just that now it's about that next phase in the relationship, kind of where it's sort of about like getting his own way. You know, even if it means you not getting your way, as long as he gets his way, it's like kind of a situation with it. Doesn't mean it's gonna bode well for him. 5 is also about change, like in numerology, and so that 5 of swords is really about changing our mind a lot. So it's like that wishy-washy kind of energy. If you have that, like the sun is really good, everything is, but the sun brings everything out. Then, like as the seasons change, like as it goes from like those sunny days of summer into autumn and maybe even into winter and stuff like that, that sun disappears unless of course you live in like California or Florida or the Sunshine State. They have sun all the time, but even still, you still have different subtle changes. Things might be more subtle in Florida. I'm up here in Michigan, and I can tell you that when we get to winter, where's the sun at? It's like gray days every day. People get that seasonal affective disorder, or it's kind of like a seasonal depression, they call it. So yeah, so that's it. So it's kind of like it's hard to kind of get a read on his feelings because his feeling is just this wishy-washy kind of mentality, and it's sort of like I want what I want to win, and this, that, and the other, and so that's kind of where the feeling is like right now in this present moment. Again, now you see why I like to break this up into the thirds. So in the next phase of our tarot card reading, we'll actually look at very specifically this card and kind of get more insight or details on it based on the card that sort of aligns with this card. We'll talk about it in a minute, but before we get there though, we do have the future that we need to look at. So as far as the feelings and emotions and everything go with him regarding this relationship and everything like that, we have the 10 of Wands. Now, Wands in the tarot are really about action. It's a very fiery energy. It's kind of like that Leo energy, like in the zodiac. And it's also that, and when you get 10 things of energy, it's not like you're taking like one of those monster energy drinks or one of those Red Bulls or whatever it is. You're not going to get your wings in this particular case, guys. This card here, like when you have the wands, this is really a heavy burden. That wood is not very light. Like you got all this here on you, and as you add one more layer to the load, it's like this is, when am I going to be home? Like when am I going to be able to put this heavy load down? It's like a burden. You're just wanting. It's no longer fun for you. And that's kind of where this is going. Like where this relationship, where the feelings and emotions and things are going. They're becoming heavier. The emotions are heavier, and with heavier emotions and heavier energy, things become more complicated. We maybe you guys have heard like hot and heavy. Like it's a very hot and heavy relationship. It's like they're getting very serious about each other now. It's not that playful kind of early part of the relationship that is playful. We have a child here, which is indicative of like play and just having a good time, and those kind of things. No, as things kind of materialize here into the future, things are going to get a little bit more serious, a little bit more heavy. Doesn't mean it's impossible or that you can't handle it or that he can't handle it. It's just going to be a more serious natured kind of relationship. So the fun and stuff like that, that may dissipate to some degree, probably more than likely is already happening now, truth be told. But as we get to this level and stuff like that, it's going to be more kind of like, I just got so much I got to deal with. I've got this relationship, I've got, college or school or some work or something, and then I've got this on top of that and this on top of that. And then I've got this other situation over here. It's a lot to deal with. And so like, it's not going to actually hurt his feelings for you per se. It's not that he's going to quit caring for you or anything like that. It's just going to be a heavier load for him to handle. So the relationship itself will become more hot and heavy. I mean, but serious. And sometimes, that's not a bad thing. Sometimes in relationships, as two people are together for a long period of time, those fun early days of the relationship where you took each other less seriously and stuff like that. Now you're beginning to get to know each other and the relationship grows and it builds. And then you start to take each other very seriously. And, you figure each other out. And that may seem a little boring, especially like when that's starting to happen, it may seem that way. But when you get over to this, it's sort of like at some point you're going to start to realize, hey, you know what? I really care about this person. And even though it may not be all fun in the sun like it once was, I really care a great deal about this person. I want to make things work, even though I've got a lot I got to balance and I'm carrying this heavy load and, things are getting a little hot and heavy and serious. And, I always maybe said to myself, I didn't want it to really be that serious. I just wanted to kind of have a light relationship. I'm not really sure if I'm ready for such a commitment. The commitment's coming, but that's the nature of relationships. You can't keep it sun in the fun forever, well, it would be nice, but the problem with that is that things are constantly, they're changing. And that's what that 5 in numerology is really bringing about, is that change. And that change doesn't stop. Change is sort of that inevitable thing and it continues on. But the relationship, as it gets more serious and all, has other benefits, though it may not be as fun. You might not wake up as thrilled or as flirtatious feeling or as into the person as you once were, like kind of on the attraction side per se. But there's that other benefit of just having a good, solid, loving relationship with someone where you meet them on a much deeper, much heavier level. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that you have to kind of grow into, so to speak. So, and that growing is growing pains. It's kind of like this guy here carrying this heavy load. There's a lot going on with it, but it can be really nice. Um, let's move on to the next third though. So that kind of gives you an idea of things and all. And where I'm picking up with that, we're looking at probably 7, 8, 9 months from now, about 9 months from now, for that to really kind of get to its hardest point. Like, in other words, it's like where in 9 months from now, it's like you could really start to feel just not the drudge of the relationship, but you could just really feel the heaviness of the relationship really start to set in. He's definitely going to be feeling that. And there's going to be that conflict in the mind of like, do I really want to continue doing this? Or do I want to kind of like, back away from it a little bit? Maybe not be so involved. But I have a feeling that he's going to stay with it. I kind of get that sense anyway. And so this is overall, it's a good reading though for you, because we have that sun in there. So keep in mind all the stuff that I'm telling you, even though some of it may seem a little bit heavy, you got to take a little bit of that heaviness off because of that sunshine shining in. It really does affect like all the cards in this entire spread. Let's move on though. Let's move to the next third. So let's talk about this change here. These conflicting swords, this winning at any cost, where we might invest and do whatever we need to do to win, and in the process of winning actually end up losing, or maybe not coming out on top or benefiting to the degree that we thought we should or would. So what is the card that really kind of accents this? Well, it's a very interesting card. It is a 7 of swords. So we have the 5 of swords, which is all about change. We have this card here. And this card, believe it or not, is really about going it alone. It's about like sort of, when we say winning at any cost, it's sort of like going it alone, like kind of doing our own thing. Okay. And right now, with where he's at, with this winning at any cost, trying to play maybe it's like a mind game kind of thing where he's trying to like test boundaries and do different things like that. That's what I'm picking up. Maybe he's putting on a show of like, just kind of doing his own thing. So he's maybe a little bit secretive, or maybe he's being a little bit withdrawn, or he's just not being his old normal self. Where in the beginning of the relationship, you ask him something, he might laugh about it, but then tell you the truth or whatever, or at least involve you more. Now it's sort of this here, sort of like, kind of like, sometimes people call this like the thief in the night, sort of like the what's in it for me kind of thing. But at the same time, it's also sort of just, to me, this card really kind of magnifies this idea of just kind of, well, I just want to kind of do me right now, just kind of do my own thing. It doesn't mean that he wants to get out of the relationship. It just means that right now he's kind of like doing his own thing, and he's not involving you as much as what he might have been in the past. And as a result of that, he might be feeling a little distressed by it, or maybe thinking that, he's up to no good, or this, that, and the other. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that he's just kind of doing his own thing, taking a little bit, not a break, but just kind of, you know, doing some boundary work, trying to like figure things out kind of mentally for himself. And we know that mental stuff because this is all the swords. Seven, though, in numerology is sort of a spiritual number, but it's also one of those kind of going it along kind of numbers. So if, say, for example, we say someone's in a 7 year in numerology, oftentimes that's the year where they become very introverted, spiritual seeking. They might go to church or to temple or to whatever that they're into, and they might start reading their Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or just anything, or investigating different things, different philosophies, or just getting more serious about those kind of more serious philosophical kind of things. Kind of fun. I'm a monk here, you guys, like, lighten up. It's okay. I'm just being a little funny. But anyway, that's the energy that's going on kind of right now in that present moment with it. So where are you feeling at with all of this? Like, as far as this whole situation, I've kind of painted this picture and kind of brought it out to light, kind of gave you some details as far as the timeline goes for all of this. So you're starting to kind of really see things more kind of from his vantage point and kind of the big picture of what's going on here. But where is the querent at? Now, the querent is the person that's asking me to do this tarot card reading. So in this case, it's Annie. Where is Annie at? Where are you at, Annie? I'm just messing. Anyway, it is this Two of Swords right here. This is a card. So if you just look at this card, I mean, what's the first thing that pops into your mind, that comes to you? And it could be different for anyone. But it's sort of like if whatever you're getting, like from this card, and if you say, "Oh, I'm not really picking up anything," well, just take a minute to look at it. I'll tell you what it means. I mean, don't worry about that. I'll give you some insight or perspective in terms of where we're at with all of this. But if you're able to kind of get something or derive something from it, or like some impression or something like that, you're starting to get kind of an idea of how being psychic is. Like, for me anyway, like it's sort of like you get these impressions, and maybe you're seeing it in your mind, or you're hearing it whispered to you, or you're having some kind of a sense about it or a feeling about it. Maybe it's in black and white, maybe it's in color, maybe it's just a thought, maybe it's just a word that comes to you. It could be a host of, maybe it's an experience that you've had in the past that's coming to the surface. There's all these different things that could happen just as a result of whatever the stimulus is that this card is a stimulus, and what you're getting from that is essentially the same thing that happens like to someone who's psychic. And I think a lot of people are very psychic. Maybe everyone's psychic. It's just how well you're calibrated to it, or you tap into it. I don't know. I've been that way since I was a small child, and this has only gotten a lot more stronger as I've gotten older, and done so many readings for people over the years, and had a lot of experience. And of course, the more experience you get doing something, the better you get with it, and the more competent you are, and the better you're able to articulate what you're actually getting. And that's been a journey. Trust me, it's been a journey. But let's look at this card for just a minute. So we have the Two of Swords here. Now, we've already kind of talked about the swords being kind of conflicting. Now, two is about, what is it? Two, like when you think of two, you think of two people. And yeah, that's true. Two. It usually involves two. Two is also about balance. So in the tarot, we see some symbology sometimes, like with justice, for example, holding the balance scale. It's balancing things out, and sometimes in relationships, we have to keep a balance, right? So we have that aspect of it. Now we also have the moon over here. The moon is very hypnotizing. It represents sort of the unconscious or the subconscious. It's very psychic kind of energy. It's the things that are kind of more hidden below the surface. It's quite the opposite of the sun, which is very transparent. It brings to light everything, right? Well, the moon is really kind of like you get a little bit of light, you see a little bit, but you don't see the whole big picture always, you know? And that's sort of like a metaphor for our subconscious mind, you know, like I was telling you guys early. The conscious mind, where we, you know, what you see is what you get, which is really represented by the sun. It's a very logical kind of energy. On the other hand, the moon, on the other hand, is more symbolizing like our subconscious or unconscious mind, kind of a female energy. And that energy is really beyond our capabilities of processing things. It's sort of like when we get our hunches or you know, we get a feeling about something, and those feelings or things we can't always make sense of it. When we say making sense, what we're saying is essentially is like really being able to logically articulate in a very matter of fact, practical way what it is that we're experiencing or feeling. Feelings are sometimes very hard to articulate. Now we've all been happy, so we have an idea of what happy is. In fact, we've got like symbology, like the happy face, right? With the emoticon, whatever we call it nowadays. But the happy face, you know, makes us happy. We see it, we're like, oh, this person's happy. Or the laugh out loud, whatever you want to call it. And if you look at it, it really does kind of resemble the sun. Now, this sun in this tarot thing is not really smiling so much, but you know, it is definitely radiating energy. So, but if you see this, you see a blindfold also. Okay, so that kind of fits into the thing. We're not always able to see everything. You know, we feel like we're kind of in the dark about things, right? The moon represents sort of like a well, with this, it's sort of like a twilight kind of energy. You know, there's a lot going on. We're kind of emotional, but we can't really make sense of things. That's what this card is really. And it's all about the relationship too. It's about two things that we're trying to weigh out. Oftentimes when this card comes up, it's having to do with like the traditional versus the modern. Like, do we go with more of a something that we would have done in the past that maybe that's more preferable to us, or are we looking for something new? Are we looking for some change? And so it's kind of like having to weigh out what our options are in order to make the best decision for ourselves. That's kind of where you're at with it. So I hope that kind of helps you with this. So now we come to the last third of this tarot card reading. So we've done the first bit, which was kind of our timeline, past, present, and future. We said that in about 9 months from now and all, you know, he's going to be carrying kind of more of a heavier load. Doesn't mean he's going to care less about you or anything like that. But in fact, he'll probably be caring a lot more about you. It's just going to be a lot of intense energy. Those wands are like very intense energy. It's like very fiery energy. So you think of that, you know, it's like you got, you know, sizzling, you know, you're going to get burned. It's just, you know, okay. So what is the outcome to all of this? King of Swords. Again, we're talking, just to remind everybody here, to remind Annie also, to remind myself, we're talking about feelings and we're talking about how he feels about Annie and where all of this is going. You know, like what's going to be a kind of our outcome, like relationship outcome kind of thing and all. And it's King of Swords. Okay, so it's like having control over one's own mind. Now, I've kind of told you guys one of my favorite spiritual verses. It's in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 6. It just says, for one who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, the mind will be the greatest enemy. And you see, and that's what we're seeing here is a conquering of the mind. We have the sword, represents the mind. We have the king, that's about authority, having authority over the mind. So this king has a lot of authority. He's able to read people. He's able to make pretty good decisions, you know, with what comes to fruition, like what's in his mind. He has authority, you know, he's authority over the land, authority over others, authority over his decisions, and just, you know, a lot of clarity and a lot of things. And that's where all of this is going to. So he's going to get a very clear understanding more about you. You're going to also get the same. You guys are going to know each other much better here over the coming months, you know, coming years, in fact. And things will be really, you know, but he's going to get to a sense, it's like, this is almost sort of like a paternalistic, I don't want to say patronizing, but it's sort of like that male kind of energy. It's sort of that dominating kind of energy where, You might go like in the beginning of the relationship where it's just very equal, very fun, this, that, and the other. So later on, a little bit more, we saw that seriousness start to kick in. And then kind of the end result is that, okay, I'm going to dominate this. I'm going to be the one in control. I'm going to handle things. I'm going to take care of things. I'm going to step up to the plate. I'm going to take responsibility. That's what the king really is all about. So there's pros and cons to it, just like there's pros and cons to any position in life. If you're president of the United States, there's certain benefits that you're entitled to, right? I mean, you don't have to go and do your own shopping, probably. You can probably get somebody to do that. I'm making the assumption here. You're not going to be going out on the town as much. That might be looked at as a negative, but if you got somebody else to do the shopping for you to get you whatever you want, why not? You're entitled to ride on the fancy airplane and go wherever you want to at a moment's notice, right? While you're in office. But on the other hand, there may be downsides to that kind of stuff. You can't go out in public as much. You have to be worried about your safety and well-being and your family's safety and well-being. And so you have to plan things very accordingly with a very tight-knit team. And so you always have somebody around you, Secret Service. So there's downsides to things. Well, the same thing applies to this here in the relationship. Even though he's going to step up to the plate, get more serious, be responsible, those are all really positive things, right? We look at that as like, oh, that's really good. But on the same time and all, there's going to be certain expectations on you as well. Like he's going to want, I'm not going to say submission, but he's going to want you to, go with his game plan, so to speak. So there may be less room for compromising at some point moving forward. And that might not be something that you're used to. It may be something that you'll have to decide, well, okay, I see that he's trying to really do right and do nice things, and he's taking care of things. But I'm kind of my energy is sort of like I don't really want someone controlling me. And you might think that it may not be that he's necessarily controlling you, but you might feel that, and you might feel like this person's trying to direct me in his direction, and I have a choice. I want to be able to do what I want. Sometimes we can't always have our cake and eat it too, as they say. Sometimes we just have to kind of go with the flow. So like you have to make this decision for yourself, and like you'll know what I'm talking about as the relationship moves forward. This thing will just sort of kind of more or less play itself out. It's not going to happen all at once. It's going to be very slowly and progressively over time. That's typically how relationships work. So if you go back and like if you were to videotape your relationship in the beginning, and then in 2 years from now, videotape where the relationship was, it'd be completely different. Like the whole dynamic, the relationship dynamic would have changed. And you see, that's what kind of goes on with this. But I see him being relatively successful professionally, and having money and having certain standards, and maybe not a lot of humility as much as there is just that strict sense of responsibility and like, um, I don't want to say, yeah, maybe entitlement is a good word for it, but it's almost like there's an expectation, and, you're going to find out exactly what that expectation is. And you'll have to decide, well, am I okay with this? Am I not okay with it? Do I need to move on? Do I need to do something else? And the choice will ultimately be up to yours. I don't see him cheating on you, though. I don't see any of that kind of funny business going on, so to speak. That's not the energy I'm picking up. It's more of kind of as the thing goes on, it becomes more serious in nature. Now, how do we, having a responsible mate is not always a bad thing. So if that's what you want, what is really the answer to getting that? What is really the solution to all of this? Or what best advice can I give you regarding this outcome, this King of Swords coming about, like as far as his feelings and things? It goes from kind of, I'll just kind of paint this out there, or kind of put this out there. It's sort of like, you know, love is about doing. It's about like selflessly serving other people. It's about devotional service. It's about, when we love someone, we really go out of our way to try to make their life the best that it can be. Try to do the very best we can for that person. We put our own needs more or less aside because it takes, well, not necessarily aside, but they take a back seat to the other person, the object of our affection. And in the beginning of relationships and all, you have what's this thing called attraction, and in life, everything, there's always something that attracts us. It could be this pattern right here, It could be anything. We could see something. It could be a candle or something, like there's candles. And maybe it's a scent that really attracts us, like when we're going to purchase a candle or something like that. I mean, but because of our five senses, we are conditioned human beings, to where we're drawn, like our senses are drawn to certain things. Like our likes and dislikes are governed by what our attraction is. And that's what happens in material life. That's the life that we have. We're on this material plane of existence. And so, um, it's about materialism. Now, some people eschew materialism and they live more of an aesthetic lifestyle, maybe like a monk's lifestyle or something like that. Um, and they don't really care so much about the material things. They might be called minimalists, for example. And less is best. You'll hear these kind of philosophical kind of ramblings, like less is best, simple living, high thinking. That's one of ours. But my point for kind of pointing this out is that um, in relationships, we're also attracted to people also. Like in the beginning of a relationship, it's really the physical attraction coupled with the friendliness or the smile or um, the voice, like how someone speaks. But you got to stop and think for a minute. That attracts us, right? And so that's why we might get in the relationship in the first place. Somebody might be very attractive, as they say. And I'm like, oh, wow, this person's really attractive. Their personality may be attractive, the way that they present themselves may be attractive. All these different qualities and the collectiveness of these qualities, the collection of these qualities says, okay, yes, this is a person I want to be with, and we make that decision. It's like a definitive thing. Say, I love this person, and this is the person I want to be with. But keep in mind that in the beginning of a relationship, it all has to go back to this whole idea of attraction that I'm kind of explaining here in this material universe. Well, you have two sides of things, like we always have the two coming up. We have what's called duality, but we also have the other flip side of things, right? We have the silver lining, or we have the undercurrent, however you want to look at it. We have the pros, we have the cons, we have the advantages, we have the disadvantages. So it's not fair to look at things through rose colored glasses only and only see the good or only see the bad. We have to kind of weigh things out, put things into perspective, and kind of understand like our own personal psychology and the psychology of our mate or the person that we're with and kind of get a handle on things. But so there's no like clear definitive thing saying, oh, you shouldn't be with this person, or oh, you'll hear a lot of things from friends and family members, and everyone will have their own perspective and their own opinions and their judgments and all of these kind of things. But at the end of the day, when it comes to a relationship, it really comes down to your attraction. Somebody else may not be as attracted to this person as what you are, but that doesn't matter necessarily, does it? I mean, if it does, then good luck. You'll always be making your decisions based on other people's opinions. And but truthfully, we normally will make a decision logically or more or less emotionally, and through these five senses, and not even really know what we're doing, and then we'll later go back and you know say why we did it, very logically. And it's sort of like why we buy things. We buy on emotion and justify with logic. Oh, I bought this car because it gets good gas mileage. No, you bought the car because it made you feel like $1,000,000 driving that thing. I mean, I'm just using that as an example here. So, just like in the material universe, we have this other side of things. We have like the spiritual universe, and so we talked earlier about the Seven of Swords. Seven is sort of that introverted, more philosophical, caring less about the material. Kind of we're more isolated, kind of like pushing the material things, all the attraction things and stuff like that, kind of back. Those things aren't as meaningful to us at this given time. So we see that happening in this tarot card spread. And when that happens, it can be very heartbreaking sometimes. We just feel like the person that we care so deeply about, that we fell in love with, isn't reciprocating, or they're not being fair to us, not giving us the attention that they used to give us. And now it's like, well, what's going on here? Like, why doesn't this person care about me anymore? Trust me, has nothing to do with that at all. It's just that things move in cycles. When we get to that seven, it's sort of like we're pushing things back. That's kind of where we're at with things right now, as we see like in this present moment. So if you're a little uneasy about the relationship, or you've been having some kind of doubts or frustrations or any of that kind of business, this is the reason why. I'm just putting it out there for you so you get a little clarity on it. Overall, though, this is a very good reading. We know that because why? We talked about it in the very beginning. It's the sun. The sun makes everything more bright, more sunny. So no matter how dark you think things are, they're really not as dark as you think they are. And if you don't think things are very dark, they're even lighter than that. So that's what the sun really does. It, you know, whatever you're feeling, trust me, it's even better than that. The situation's better than what you think. That's what the sun really gives us. It's sort of a nice advantage, a nice benefit. And again, like if you can see everything plain as day, you can very attracted to a lot of things because you can see multiple things, whereas with the moon and that energy, there's less to see, more things hidden. We rely more on that inner self or that spiritual self, and that kind of thing, that subconscious mind. And so that's the, that's kind of like where we're at with everything. So that, so what is the, you know, what is the answer though? Like what we were talking about as far as like, for this here, for getting what we want. Let's talk about that for a moment. Well, we have this. Guess what? 7 of Pentacles. So we had the 7 of Swords, right? Remember the 7 of Swords? This is the card. We said that this card here was sort of that going it alone kind of business. It was the one that magnified this 5 of Swords, kind of winning at any cost. Now we have the 7 of Pentacles. What did we say 7 was about? Well, we've been talking about it. 7 is really that kind of distancing things back, not being so actively involved in things. Now, if you look at this, he's on a wand, which is a tool or something that he's been using for harvesting his crop or doing his gardening or whatever it is that he's doing with that thing, maybe walking a great distance to get to where he needs to be. Whatever the case is, doesn't much matter. That wand, he's just kind of leaning on that energy. That's sort of like, he's getting a little fatigued and stuff. He's been working really hard, been getting the crop grown. This here represents material abundance. It's sort of like coins are generally referred to as money, or the representation or the symbolism of money. But really, what do we say when we have a lot of money or we have a lot of wealth? What exactly does that give us? What is the underlying thing? Well, it gives us freedom, right? Freedom to go and buy what we want, to not have to worry about things. So we have these different benefits, these emotional benefits that are connected to these things. If you don't have to go out and worry about, where your next meal is going to come from, if you don't have to worry about how you're going to pay your bills, if you don't have to worry about finances ever again, it's going to make you feel pretty good, pretty safe, pretty sound, pretty free, right? And so there's a benefit to it, right? Of course, if you don't have any money, money for food or anything else, you might be feeling pretty worried or, pretty depressed or pretty down in the dumps or very concerned. You might be feeling very concerned, like trying to figure this thing out or panic stricken, especially if you have children or other people involved and you're in a situation where you have to take care of those people. You'd be very like, you want to make sure that you're doing what you can to take care of things. You want to feel like you're in control of things. Well, in this 7 of Pentacles, it's sort of like distancing ourselves back from the activities and things that we've been doing. So sometimes, and this is about like money or, focusing in other directions and that kind of thing. So what's really the key to this King of Swords and him being able to take control? If you want him to be able to step up to the plate, make good decisions, take care of you, provide, have a good foundation for the relationship and for the future in general, the key is to kind of let him focus on his work, on these other things that are kind of outside of the you and him, and that's going to make him feel more safe, more secure, more in control. And then you will get this. This will be the thing. Of course, when he gains control, it makes him feel more empowered. And the more power that he gets, the more power he may try to wield on you. I mean, I'm not saying that that's the kind of person he is or anything like that, but just be aware that, if somebody has less power and they're given a lot more power, they may start to use that power in other ways, just as a result of having that power or feeling that sense of power. So they may react or communicate or respond differently than if they were in like a weaker position where they felt like they had less power or less control over a situation. So that's what this is basically representing. And 7, of course, is sort of that, you know, letting him kind of go it alone a little bit sometimes, and then things kind of work out. He keeps you in his life and everything. Nothing really goes awry there. Just be aware that, um, don't let power go to his head, like, and if you can help out with that kind of a situation, if you kind of prevent that bit from happening, you just have to kind of reiterate this ideal of equality or fairness, or, taking your feelings and emotions and things into consideration as well. And, just kind of like playing those cards, and keeping things pretty much, focused kind of in that direction. So anyway, this has been, we're almost an hour into this tarot card reading, and I normally don't have them go that long, but I don't know. It's the end of the night, and this was the last tarot card reading that I was to do tonight. So I had a lot of people that have chimed in or been asking me questions or been emailing me and connecting with me and stuff, and they had some curiosities around sort of this process and how I actually pick up things or how I get things, how I intuit things, um, how I get psychic images or pictures or dreams, and all these kind of things start to happen. How does it happen? I've done my best to try to articulate that in the beginning of this. And I think in doing so, it's actually kind of helped this tarot card reading, because now it kind of gives like an idea of like what the situation is and everything. So anyway, I hope that this helps you. It's my motivation behind doing this is to help as many people that I possibly can. There's no other motivation besides that. And now, if you guys want to help the channel, if you want to help the monks, me, you can do that. You can give a donation or something like that to helpbydonating.com if you'd like to get a tarot card reading. There's information on how to contact me, and all of that information is in the description below this video. I have my email on there, telephone number. If you need spiritual direction or anything like that, just ask and ye shall receive. And if you want a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, that text that I was quoting from a little bit ago, the information will be in the description below this video as well. So feel welcome to reach out to me about that if you like. And I think that's about it. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification. And the real benefit to hitting the bell notification is I do so many of these live streams nowadays that if you get on and you want to get like a question answered, and it's like the middle of the night or early morning and stuff like that, us monks, we get up really, really early. You can actually ask a question and stuff. And if I'm on here doing these, a lot of times I'll answer people's questions live on the air. As long as your name or whatever, just tell me how you want me to call you, or I'll usually call you by whatever your YouTube channel name is. As long as you're okay with that and it doesn't violate your privacy or anything like that, feel welcome to ask questions, and I will more than happy, answer them for you. And so anyways, that's about it. But yeah, check out the description below this video. Like I said, all the information is down there below. Much love, many blessings. I will see you guys on the next episode of Indirect Knowledge. Take care of yourself, take care of each other.